everyone, Adam Harris here. This is now Sunday the 15th of November 2020, and I'm having a look at the major commodities, starting off with oil. I beg your pardon, starting off with gold. So right off the bat, I mentioned the wrong one. But anyway, so gold, having a look at this, we had quite a significant drop to the downside on Monday. Last week. Now, just to recap for anyone who hasn't seen any of my prior kind of episodes, I've been waiting for gold to come back down to connect, at least with the moving average here, to do a minimum type of retracement. Looking at the monthly candles so far, they don't look bullish. It does very much look as though price is consolidating or heading sideways or range bound, and seems to be finding some pretty strong support around about 1850. So I'd like to see, for me, if gold would just kind of relax, come back down, connect to the moving averages, it would then be at a really good place for buyers to step in and then pick it up, and then it could resume its longer term trend to the upside. At the moment, it is pretty much still range bound, and attempting to stay above this level. So what I'm going to be looking for is, it's not ideally tradable for me. I'm not really seeing any great quality stuff here. I'll be watching to see if it can break back up above 1900, and of course then it's going to have to break above the previous highs to get outside of this general range-like behavior. So in other words, I don't really anticipate that gold will start trending properly until it gets free and clear of all of this, which means it's going to have to kind of get back up above 1950 and 2000 again. At the same time, if it does find resistance here and then start to head lower, there might be some shorter term trading opportunities, temporary, a window of opportunity to trade it to the downside as it heads back down towards 1800. So that's something that I'll be prepared for throughout the week. If it does do that, if it drops and breaks through this level of support at 1850, there might be a short window of opportunity on the much lower time frames, 5 minute, 15 minute, 30 minutes, looking for shorter term trend based opportunities there. Not really seeing it as there's no clear direction on it at any rate. Here, then looking at silver. Silver's just a little bit more bullish than gold. It's producing these slightly higher lows, higher highs. It's actually got a confirmed uptrend on the weekly. That's pretty cool. The monthly is still battling with resistance at 26, and certainly silver is would benefit greatly from a retracement down to 21 or 19, depending on which Fibonacci level it likes, but also just in terms of key levels as well. So I'd very much like to see that happen. I do think that if gold does have a heavy move to the downside, it'll pull silver down with it, but currently in isolation or separately to gold, silver is looking stronger. Copper, then having a look at copper. Copper is looking even more bullish by comparison. All right, and that is not that far away from weekly resistance. So it makes more sense to me that this will attempt to get past 3.2 here and head on towards 3.25. It is certainly looking just a little bit better in terms of bullishness. Platinum, largely sideways, but also looking a little bit more bullish to me. I do think it's going to come, it's going to attempt to test the top of this. The weekly chart shows a very clear range-bound market, and again, I'd need to see this get free and clear of that to start to head up towards the next level at 958. Palladium, which has been generally speaking pretty nice on the monthly, but has been incredibly volatile on any lower time frames, is clearly struggling actually with resistance close towards 233 here, 2350. It's really battling to get past that, and solid rejections at 25. So there's just not enough buyers above this area to be able to get it to maintain that momentum. And again, deep retracements, big moves up, deep retracements is just indicating that there's a large number of sellers up here and a large number of buyers below here, and there's just this general range-bound behavior. So it just makes it incredibly tricky for higher probability trade setups. So I'm going to leave this as pretty much range-bound here, but the longer-term move does appear to be still edging slightly up to the upside, but it's definitely struggling to get past that. Moving on to oils. So oil found a ceiling at 42. Here on West Texas, and could potentially find support at 40, but if it falls through that, it makes more sense to me that it's going to continue to head back down within that range, back down towards the 37 level. And then, of course, how this could ultimately play out is potentially, we'll see. We're only halfway through the month now to see if it closes out as a engulfing bearish candle, which would then, of course, support the idea of that longer-term trend to the downside. So again, also looking at Brent as well, struggled to get past that 44 level. To me, it's going to lean, I'm leaning slightly more towards it coming down towards the middle of the range or the other side of that range before potentially finding support, and then we'll see if it can manage to bounce back up from that and get outside that range. Alternatively, but it's leaning just a little bit more towards the downside, and as I said, alternatively it'll break and continue to head lower. So it just means that that's one of those ones where there is no clear direction at this point. It has had solid rejections from the highs and is now potentially going to revert back within the range, whether it goes into the middle, because ranges often have a midpoint like a central axis. That's obviously what they rotate around, and potentially then recover from that, find support there at 40 even, or potentially continue down to the bottom of that range. So unfortunately, this is just one of those ones where I'm going to have to monitor it throughout the week. It's still stuck within its range. Finishing off with cryptos, the Bitcoin and Ethereum have just been performing absolutely beautifully. They're starting to head into old highs. Monthly candles starting to head into slightly normal overextension away from the moving averages. The weekly starting to become a bit overextended. So this may well struggle at this point to continue on higher. I doubt that it's going to be able to push a lot further. There's no doubt to me at this point in time that the longer term trend is very much to the upside, similar to gold, but at the same time it's now starting to become due for a bit of a breather. Okay, so in terms of that, I'd like to see it come back down towards, potentially down towards 13,000 to test this for support. That would be a very, very acceptable level for it to test that. And again, if gold does find its way lower, it's possible that this might happen at the same time. Ethereum is certainly bumping its head here against, let's call it 475. It's also starting to produce a bit of an indecision candle there on the weekly. But that also has much more potential, of course, to head a lot higher. If we do, you can just see here, once we break through 450, there's not a lot really standing in its way can head up towards 600, 700, and so on. It's not that overextended. But the move this time around, I don't anticipate it's going to be like this at all. So in fact, it's going to be a lot slower. I think the monthly candles will go back down in terms of size. And again, any kind of pullbacks into levels of support or back down here towards 400. These are really nice areas for a weekly retracement. Comparing Ethereum to Bitcoin, this does look as though it's got a bit more juice to continue on upwards. So at the moment, I'm sort of leaning towards both Bitcoin and Ethereum, trying to climb higher first of all, attempting to move further to the upside before potentially taking a bit of a breather. And that's it. Thank you very much. Have a good week.